Thank you for joining us today for our AI and cybersecurity webinar. We chose this topic today because you told us that this topic was top of mind on a recent survey that we conducted. We appreciate the trust that you have placed in Harvest Point, and we're always grateful whenever you reach out to us when security questions arise. Our webinar today will be recorded, so if you miss anything, or for those that cannot attend, you will be able to rewatch our presentation. One of our core values at Harvest Point is generosity, and we know that giving back is important to our clients as well. At each of our events, we are honored to highlight a charity partner. For each registered attendee today, we will be donating $10 to Tech Gift. Tech Gift is a local Des Moines nonprofit organization that is on a mission to change the world by connecting technology, communication, and digital resources. Founded by 16-year-old Kathir Kalaraman, Tech Gift helps refugees in need by providing digital services and devices. In fact, Kathir was recently featured in a local news segment. We will include a link to that segment in our follow-up email at the conclusion of today's event. Thank you for your attendance and helping to make an impact in our community. We have a great agenda in store for you today. Following some office updates from Tim, Colin will provide a brief market update. Then he will turn it over to our guest speakers from LPL's security team, Anthony Tran and Olivia Lack. They will be presenting on some very important information to help protect you from scams and fraudulent activity. At the end of our webinar today, there will be time for a Q&A. If you have any questions during the webinar for Anthony or Olivia or our staff, please email those to info@harvestpointwm.com. With that said, I am pleased to welcome our founding partner, Tim McLaughlin, who will share more exciting office updates. Tim?
Thanks, Angela. I really appreciate that and great welcome. I'd echo Angela's comments. Thanks to everyone who is taking time out of their lunch hour to join us today. We're glad that you came to hang out with us, and we hope that we have a lot of valuable information for you today. We have both clients and guests on the call today, so spanning the country. We have about 6 different states represented, so really appreciate the opportunity to do this. Obviously for our local clients, but also in particular for those who are out of state. And it's a great way to be able to connect with all of you and also thank you for your business. And that's a big part of this today. We want to appreciate the fact that you have entrusted us with your financial future and helping to guide you and provide hopefully what we pray is sound advice. So again, welcome to the call today. Thank you for your continued business. And to our guests, welcome. If this is the first time that you've been experiencing anything related to Harvest Point, we hope that this is beneficial for you. We'd love to further the conversation with you. And again, thank you for joining us today, rather. I did notice too, before we change slides here, that I am wearing the same shirt that I am pictured in there on the slide. So I promise I have more than one dress shirt in my closet. My wife is going to kill me. It's just now occurring to me that that's the case, but we will move on with that said. So fraud is the topic today, and we have our experts, like Angela mentioned, from LPL who will guide us through that topic. However, I did want to say a few words here locally from our office first, and that would be that, last year we had the most instances of attempted fraud made upon our clients pretty much in the history of our organization. So I'm sure you have also seen that amongst friends and family members. It's a topic that is on everyone's mind nowadays. But, we had instances involving timeshare fraud, jury duty, medical billing, gift cards, software remoting into the computer, Bitcoin, really the list goes on. So more than ever, it's really important to be vigilant in this particular area. One thing that is maybe unique and stands out about LPL Financial, who is our affiliate broker dealer, financial advisors have to clear through an organization. we have chosen to partner with LPL Financial, the nation's largest broker dealer. They invest $40 million per year into cybersecurity. So they take it very seriously. Furthermore, they have something they call the cyber fraud guarantee. So if there were to be unauthorized access made inside of your LPL registered account, then they would stand by and reimburse you for 100% of those losses. That unauthorized access, of course, has to come through their systems, and there's some different obligations on your side that you need to make sure that you have in place. But in the follow-up email that we'll be sending out afterwards, we will include more details about that cyber fraud guarantee. But hopefully that's just yet another aspect of peace of mind that just provides you with some comfort that LPL stands by their systems and what they have put in place. Another thing that I think is important is, although this is sad, it's to the point now where it's best to just not answer the phone if you don't know who is calling. So, there you can always listen to the message and you can determine whether or not it is legitimate. We're happy to help. If you have any questions in that regard, always reach out to us. We're going to be doing an increasingly better job, I think, of validating and verifying your information when you call in. So don't be surprised if we're asking you for your social security number or address or any other form of verification, so that we can make sure, in fact, it is you calling in with any requests that you may have. So with that said, I did want to spend just a minute or two before we send it over to our experts on Harvest Point. So as many of you on the call know, Harvest Point exists to faithfully guide and equip our clients to wisely steward the wealth that has been entrusted to them. And we take that very seriously. It's a privilege and we view it as a high calling, but we try to come to work every day and put your interests first as clients. We want to be the opposite of that 1-800 number that you call where you can't get a hold of anybody. We have people standing here at the ready to take your call, to receive your email. And, in today's day and age, we all have a number of different stories of experiences like that, sadly, where customer service is a dying breed. So like I said, we want to be the opposite of that here at Harvest Point. And to that point, we have some changes on our team that are occurring this year, many of which you have probably already seen in one of our emails or postings. As many of you know, Kathy, my mom, is retiring here at the end of this year officially. She's down to 1 day per week now this year, and has been enjoying spending some increased time with the grandkids and my dad. And so that's been great for them. And of course, she'll always have a place and role in our organization. She's our founder. And so she intends to continue to be involved in more of a strategic advisory role, kind of providing some guidance about long-term planning for the organization as a whole. And of course, we always joke, she'll always be stopping in to check on us, make sure we're doing right by the client. And we love that and welcome that. And it's our aim to carry on her legacy. So in that vein, as you can also see on this screen here, we have welcomed in Lauren Wegman and Jacob Olson in recent months. There are two newest hires, and really they both bring a unique skill set. So Lauren comes to us with more of a creative expertise, and she'll help on the marketing and client care side. So you might catch her if you call in or via email. She played a pivotal role in planning today's event and did a great job of doing that and seeing it through. She's kind of running things behind the scenes for us here today on this webinar. And then Jacob comes to us from the recruiting world. So he was with a firm here locally and spent a couple years doing that. He's got a real heart for helping other people, and he desires to be a financial advisor in his career. So we welcome him to the organization, and Lauren as well. Really, I think perhaps what's unique about the two of them is they sought us out in one fashion or another. And really, I think that's a testament to the folks that we have here in our organization for living out our culture. Certainly, it's ultimately you as the client who allow us to do that. We wouldn't have a job if it weren't for you. And so we're very grateful for your continued business that we can put out there on the website, emails, however we communicate with you, kind of how we do business, what our culture is like. And clearly that is desirable. It was for Lauren and Jacob, and we're grateful for that. And all centered around serving you, putting your needs first. And that's again, kind of the main part of our organization, as you already know. So with that said, I did want to mention a couple other things too on this topic. So we have been blessed with the clients that we have in our organization. And as you might imagine, as you as clients progress through your lives, your financial situations can sometimes become more complex, whether it's retirement, whether it's estate planning, questions and concerns, whether it's gifting strategies as you get further on into your life, determining how to leave a legacy. We have had to make sure that we have the right people in place, not only in regards to Kathy retiring, but also to make sure that we can serve our clients' increasing needs, as well as the additional clients that we have been able to add to the firm in recent years. So those would kind of be the main sources of our growth. We want to ensure that we have the right people in place. We also are doing so in a measured way. So we are not just growing for growth's sake. We have had to, along those lines, limit the number of new clients that we can accept every year, because we want to make sure that we still have enough capacity to serve our existing clients. That's the top priority. And so that's kind of what we have determined would be the best, more of a measured growth approach. Your fees and expenses, contrary to maybe what you might be inclined to think, would be increasing because of the growth of the organization. It's actually the opposite. We, over the past recent years, have been able to reduce costs in clients' accounts pretty much across the board. And especially dating back to the Waddell and Reed days, we've been able to just broaden out some portfolio allocation options, and in a documented way, bring down the internal expense ratios inside of those portfolios. So always happy to talk further about that, but never want you to think that our growth in any way means more or higher expenses for you. Those are expenses for us that we take on when we grow our team. And like I said, we do so in a measured way. So wanted to make sure that we definitely touched on that. And with that said, let's jump to the next slide, Lauren, and maybe take a look here at what we have. My final thought, which would be, many of you have been so kind as to leave us a review out on our Google review page. And you can do that by taking out your smartphone, and on the camera app, you can open up the camera and scan the QR code on the right there, right above leave us a review. And that will take you right to the Google page. And you're able to, if you feel so inclined, just put in a couple words about your experience working with our firm. We would humbly accept that and really appreciate that. Really what it does is it gives prospective clients a better idea of what it would be like to work with our firm. And that's the QR code on the left. So if you do know someone who might be interested in reaching out to us and determining whether or not it would be a good fit to work with us, we would welcome that opportunity. They could scan the code on the left there, just under the Become a Client heading, and we can kind of take the next steps as is necessary. We, again, greatly appreciate your time today. And with that said, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Colin Miller. He is a CFP and our Director of Planning. Colin's been with us for 6 years now, and he has been promoted during that time span and really has taken on a great leadership role inside of our firm. Further, that CFP certification is one that is widely considered the gold standard in our industry. Only about 35% of financial representatives have that certification. So we're appreciative of the commitment that Colin has made to serving clients here inside of our firm. With that said, Colin, I'll turn it over to you for some market updates.
Thank you, Tim. We do truly believe it is a blessing that our team has been able to grow in order to serve our clients like you. As Tim mentioned, we wanted to take a few moments and provide you with a brief market update since we are halfway through Q3 already. Year to date, the S&P 500 is up 18.5%, and since the most recent bull market started in October of 2022, the S&P 500 is up 45%. Historically, stocks have an average intraday year decline of 14% each year. We finally had some notable volatility a couple of weeks ago, and for the first time in the better part of 18 months. However, last week, the S&P 500 returned over 3.5%, which is the best week of the year so far. Even with 2024 being an election year, history suggests that we still have some more room for growth. The chart you see on your screen right now is a look back at the S&P 500 when it was up 10% or more at the halfway point of the year. And this has happened 23 times since 1954. The last half of the year, the index is up on average 7.7%. And since 1954, there were only 4 years that didn't have a positive second half of the year. However, if we look at the next full year, the market historically continues to perform and has a return on average of about 25%. And even better news, the market has never been down the year after the S&P 500 is up 10% at the halfway point. Now, as our friends in compliance would like me to point out, past performance is never an indication of future performance. Another thing that we do have to consider, and that you all very well know, is that it is an election year. Yes, it's hard to believe that we've been dealing with political TV commercials for the better part of a year, but it's almost over. Regardless of the outcome of the election, corporations seem to always find a way to create and innovate. That's why we're proponents of time spent in the market rather than trying to time the market or the election. Historically, election years have usually been good. On average, during an election year, the S&P 500 returns around 7.5%, and the following year around 7.6%. If you examine the chart, you will see during both red and blue years, there is a variance of returns, both positive and negative. However, we know that the president and Congress can have an impact on the economy and stock market, but ultimately, it is mostly the corporate earnings as well as the strength of the consumer that drive the direction of the stock market. With that said, it's my pleasure to introduce Anthony Tran and Olivia Lack from the Advisor Security team at LPL Financial. Anthony Tran is an analyst on the Advisor Security team who assists advisors and their clients on best cybersecurity practices in order to keep their information safe and secure. He regularly interacts with advisors by conducting risk assessments that focus heavily on spreading awareness on cyber attacks, such as phishing. Olivia Lack is an analyst on the Advisor Security team who helps educate advisors and their clients about cybersecurity. Olivia speaks with advisors every day by assisting them with the security hotline and mailbox in an effort to keep them protected. As Angela said, they will be happy to answer any questions towards the end of the call. I'll now turn it over to you, Anthony and Olivia.
Thank you so much, Colin, for that great introduction there. My name is Olivia, like he said, and I'm also here with my colleague, Anthony Tran. Again, we're from LPL Financial, the Advisor Information Security team, and we have a great little presentation for you guys here today on just cybersecurity best practices, scams to look out for, as well as some more information on artificial intelligence, that super popular topic that everyone's been hearing about lately. So we'll just jump right into it. I'm first going to talk about what is cybersecurity and who is behind these different cyber attacks. So cybersecurity is the art of protecting networks, devices, and data from unauthorized access or criminal use, and the practice of ensuring confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. You should care about cybersecurity because these bad actors are constantly evolving their different tactics to access your information in unauthorized manners. And then once they've gained that access, they will use that information to commit fraud against those victims that they have. So on the right here, we also have a really interesting chart just about who are these different cyber criminals that are out there. And the first three we see are hacktivism, crime, and angry or disgruntled employees. These are the main ones that we see are impacting people today, whereas these final three, espionage, terrorism, and warfare, more impact the critical infrastructure of countries, and we aren't necessarily the target of these here in this webinar today. We more focus on the hacktivism, crime, and angry employees, as those different cyber criminals tend to utilize something called social engineering, which is an attack that takes advantage of human emotions to carry out their attack. So perfect. Yeah, moving on, we're going to kind of go a little bit deeper into social engineering and specifically what it is and how you can prevent it, as this is currently the main thing that we've been seeing a lot lately that is behind these different cyber attacks that are out there. So social engineering attacks use psychological manipulation to deceive victims into divulging sensitive data or take actions on their accounts they wouldn't normally do. So social engineering is popular amongst cyber criminals because they can potentially gain access to devices and accounts without having that technical skills or background. And then also can bypass those the protections in place, such as those firewalls or antivirus softwares there. So some different common social engineering attacks that we've been seeing are listed here below. First, we have phishing, which is when a bad actor sends a suspicious email to a large group of individuals, hoping to get that recipient to interact with the link or attachment that is within that email there. There's also ransomware, which you might have been familiar with before, which is a virus or malware that infects a device after a phishing email has been interacted with, where the bad actor will request a ransom to be paid out before they give control back to the victim that they took advantage of. Third, we also have scams. So bad actors will create realistic looking scams that they try to trick their victims into giving out any of that sensitive information or potentially money. Then there's also finally email compromise, where a bad actor will impersonate a trusted source, whether it be a coworker, a family member, a friend, to trick you into giving away that personal and sensitive information. So, for example, if I received an email from someone here at the Harvest Point team after our webinar today, and it was a little bit more different tone, more unprofessional, their communication with us has been super professional and positive so far. But if I received an email from them that seemed a little bit different than their normal tone, it would maybe kind of encourage me to kind of think twice about if this was real or not. And that's exactly what these bad actors are doing with social engineering attacks, is just make something super uncomfortable and different and take that human emotion part of it out there to get you to interact and to get you to commit that potential financial fraud there. So moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about another very common thing we've been seeing lately, which is elder fraud. And elder fraud is the illegal or improper use of an older person's funds, property, or assets. And victims of elder fraud generally are over the age of 60, and these scams usually involve making false promises about financial benefits, maybe commodities or services that either do not exist or were misinterpreted. So if you take a look at these two graphs we have here, they highlight the amount of elder fraud victims and how much money has been lost over the past 5 years. So what I find really interesting is that the amount of elder fraud victims actually decreased after 2020, yet the losses continue to increase drastically. This shows that even though there were less victims, the losses continue to increase since elders continue to fall victim to these attacks. On the right, we also see a list of common examples of scams that contribute to elder fraud, with the most common being customer service and tech support scams. I also meant to mention invoice scams as well. Invoice scams consist of phishing emails that claim you've made a purchase that you did not. They may imitate or order confirmation email from popular shopping sites such as Amazon and entice you to click on a link or attachment within the email, all to make you think that you made a purchase that you possibly did not. So if you receive that unfamiliar invoice, not really sure what it is, what I would do is just go back to your bank statements to see if that purchase was actually made. And then if it was through one of those other third-party sites, go through and log into that site on your own. Don't click the link through the email, just to make sure that we are verifying that that purchase was made or not. Another one that we see pretty common with elder fraud is the tech support scams. So tech support scams are a type of fraud disguised as legitimate technical or customer support services. So these bad actors will impersonate members of a reputable company like Microsoft or Apple and claim that there's something wrong with your computer. They'll demand a type of payment for their services. And then we've also seen a version of this, which is a bogus pop-up that'll appear on your computer. And that will say you need to call the number and that your device has been infected. So to avoid falling victim to this type of scam also, just remember that these companies like Microsoft and Apple, they're never going to provide a phone number for you to assist with computer issues. So if you ever see a phone number, just know automatically that is completely fake. So if you do experience this pop-up, what we would recommend doing is just disconnect your device from the internet, perform a malware scan afterwards to verify if you indeed have a virus on your computer. And then you can also take your device to a local IT professional to have them scan for any of those viruses or malware, just so you have that extra peace of mind for your devices there. So moving on, seniors are more prone to fraud because they're usually not as technologically inclined, and they have a little more wealth accumulated with them, making them more of a popular target for cyber criminals. So with elders, we just recommend many of those same tips that I just brought up and those other practices that we had associated with those cyber attacks and phishing, but also just don't act quickly, as these scams are just based on creating fear and urgency to get you to interact with that email or that caller on the other side of the phone. And just avoid any of those odd payment requests, as scammers will often ask you to send money over wire transfer, cryptocurrency, or even ask you to send over the numbers on the back of the gift card. So those should just be immediate triggers that this is something that's not legitimate. And then finally, we just want to recommend that older folks reach out to their family members or their friends to ask for help if they feel like there's something that is very suspicious. They just want to confirm the legitimacy. For example, I have my grandma. Whenever she gets a weird email or phone call or anything, I just have her give me a call, send it over to me, just so I can help her confirm if it's real or not. Just like Tim said, don't avoid picking up the phone, especially if you don't know who might be calling. If it is someone important, you can always give them a call back after listening to the voicemail. But in this day and age, just really got to be careful with who you're interacting with and always verify the source before continuing to move forward. So if you know someone that might be a victim of elder fraud, immediately stop all that communication with the scammer and contact the financial institution where that scammer might have obtained any sensitive information from, so they can help assist with the situation. And so now that I've talked a little bit about different scams and cybersecurity best practices, I'm going to hand things over to Anthony. He's going to talk about everyone's new favorite topic, which is artificial intelligence.
Yeah, thanks for the great information, Olivia, and perfect. So we'll go straight into AI, also known as artificial intelligence. And AI is one of the biggest topics this year, and there has been a lot of buzz around its potential as well as its dangers. And while AI is an exciting new technology, we must be cautious about the malicious use of AI and how cyber criminals can take advantage of its capabilities. But before we dive deeper into that, let me tell you exactly what AI is. AI is a technology that allows digital devices to analyze, learn, and create. And it performs computational statistics with the purpose of giving a prediction. However, this prediction is created by utilizing information you have to generate information that you do not have. So for example, payment processing is one of the many uses of AI on a daily basis. When you make a payment, credit card companies use AI to approve or decline a transaction without human approval, so that the consumer can spend money without interruption. It kind of works as a middleman. When you make a purchase, AI will take into consideration a few different factors, such as the location of the purchase, or if the purchase is an unusual amount of money. And I think a few of us have experienced our card being declined because we're in a new country or a new city, and you can really just thank AI for that. And now that we have a general idea of what AI is, I'd like to talk about how cyber criminals take advantage of it for malicious intent within these next few slides. So with the introduction of AI this past year, not only is it a tool that regular folks can get their hands on, but it also opens doors to cyber criminals as well. AI provides augmented and enhanced capabilities to schemes that cyber criminals already use and increases cyber attack speed, scale, and automation. Now, cyber criminals are leveraging publicly available and custom-made AI tools to orchestrate highly targeted phishing campaigns, exploiting the trust of individuals and organizations alike. Now, these AI-driven attacks are characterized by their ability to craft convincing messages tailored to specific recipients and containing proper grammar and spelling, increasing the likelihood of successful deception and data theft. So some of the most common attacks at the moment include deepfakes, phishing, and voice cloning scams, and we'll go over each one in detail. So first off are deepfakes. Deepfakes are a type of synthetic media created using AI and involves the alteration of digital content such as films, photographs, or audio recordings to imitate victims. Additionally, unique content can actually be created in which individuals are depicted doing or saying things they have not done. Now, while deepfakes can be quite convincing, there are a couple of things or factors you can look out for if you do encounter one. So deepfakes can have inconsistent facial features such as unnatural blinking or unusual eye movement and mouth movements as well. They might also have weird lighting and uneven skin tones. The person that is speaking might have a robotic or scripted voice. And then to add on to that point, the lip movement might not even match the speech. So these are just a couple of red flags that you want to look out for when you're encountering a deepfake video or just any video in particular. And it's crucial to be mindful of these to protect yourself and your data. Now, the next attack I want to go over is phishing. Olivia spoke about phishing earlier, and now with AI, scammers can now create, send, and automate phishing campaigns to reach a larger population. So AI has made phishing emails much easier to create as they have become more convincing and personalized towards victims. So cybercriminals use AI by implementing the data that they know or have about the victim, and in turn, AI creates something that is much more deceiving and can be easy to fall for. For example, they can develop a password reset email, right? And claiming that that your account's password was expired or compromised, and let's say that you fall for that email. The next thing you know, you're giving away your password to a bad actor waiting to commit financial fraud through your compromised accounts. Therefore, it's always important to verify every email that you encounter, especially since AI can be used to create legitimate looking ones. Continue to analyze the sender of the email by looking at the name and the actual email address and its content in order to avoid being a victim to an AI phishing scam. The last scam I want to go over is voice cloning. So this is where a cyber criminal can use AI to replicate human voices over the phone, often impersonating trusted individuals or organizations to deceive victims into revealing sensitive information or money. The risk of falling victim to an AI voice cloning scam is quite significant. Like with other scams, voice cloning can be extremely convincing, making it harder to discern the fraudulent nature of a call. However, there are a few ways to mitigate the risk of falling for a voice cloning scam. So what we want to look out for is unnatural pauses or robotic speech. And of course, always when you're answering a call, question any unexpected requests for personal or financial information. You of course, always want to verify the caller's identity. One thing that our team always recommends is having a safe word with your close friends and family. That way you can really discern if the person that's calling is legitimate, and only you two would know that safe word. Of course, you always want to stay calm and avoid any pressure tactics from these scammers as well. And like Tim mentioned earlier, it's that time where we need to avoid calls from those unknown numbers. If it's really important, then they'll leave a voicemail or text you, and you could always decide if that's a legitimate contact or not. So these are a few ways to identify and avoid voice cloning scams. And a good rule of thumb is to always just trust your instincts and to remain skeptical, as these scams won't go away and will continue to get more and more convincing as technology develops. Perfect. So now that we've gone over the dangers of AI scams and the importance of being cyber secure, we always like to give you a call to action to emphasize the important points that we've made throughout this presentation and challenge you to make a change with the information that you just learned. So the first is that LPL is committed to working with Harvest Point Wealth Management to protect you and secure your accounts. Next is that social engineering attacks are meant to take advantage of your emotions. So always just take a step back and think twice whenever you receive a request for your sensitive information. Additionally, do not click links or attachments from unknown sources to mitigate the risk of falling for a phishing attack. And of course, always value security over convenience. And lastly, AI tools will continue to evolve, but it is important that they are monitored closely to identify their potential for malicious actions. So that concludes our side of the presentation here. I'll hand it back over to Angela.
All right. Thank you, Anthony and Olivia, for providing those very important safeguards to help protect us from these cyber scams. We appreciate your insight. We've been compiling the questions that have come in during this presentation. As a reminder, if you would like to ask a question about today's webinar, please email those to info@harvestpointwm.com, and we will add them to our queue. Our first question comes from the line with Arnold from Iowa for our securities team. He asked, is there a way that we can prevent my voice from being cloned?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So really the only way a bad actor would have access to your voice is if your voice was posted on like the internet, right, in public. So if it's through like a YouTube video or maybe on social media, that's the only way a bad actor could really replicate that voice is if they have access to your voice recordings, right? So I guess our recommendation is try to avoid maybe posting your your voice on the internet if you can. But if that isn't the case, we always, of course, recommend having that safe word with your close friends and contacts, right? Just so that if they do receive a call from somebody trying to impersonate you, you have that safe word, and then that safe word, of course, is the only way they can discern if you are indeed legitimate or not.
Yeah, I totally agree with Anthony as well. I think another thing you can do is just go into the different preferences for the applications on your phone, and turn off the settings that allow them to hear have your access to your microphone or your camera. A lot of times you don't need Candy Crush or any of those fun apps having access to your voice or access to your video, right? And so take the time to go into your phone, those different apps, and you can go to the security settings, turn off things you don't think they'll need access to. A lot of times with these different free social media apps or other free apps, they make money off of the different data that they capture from them. And so if you just want to avoid that in general, then I would just go ahead, turn off those different settings, and that'd be another good way to just give a little more peace of mind when it comes to any other data that could be out there that companies or maybe a bad actor could utilize to possibly replicate your voice. And ultimately, what we really just encourage at the end of this presentation is just take in the information that we gave to you and spread that with your family and your friends and coworkers, really anyone, just so you're all on the same page. You can all stay protected and look out for each other if possibly someone's voice got cloned or any other type of phishing attack happened there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Our next question comes from Dan from Oklahoma. His question is for the LPL security team as well. Is the online save my password for future use feature safe to use and trust?
Yes. So what we like to call those different features that maybe come when you're using Google or another web browser is something called a password manager. So you'll go ahead and store all those passwords in that place for you. That way you can easily utilize them and allow yourself to get into their different accounts that you might have on the internet. So yeah, you can definitely go ahead and use those different features. If you use the one on Google or any of those other web browsers, I would just recommend making an account and then having multi-factor authentication set up for your account. That way, if someone else happened to get one of your passwords, they wouldn't have access completely into your account because they would still need your phone to approve that second level of authentication in. So maybe when you get that number to type in back into the account, or you'll get the notification on your phone to approve the request, you'll have that kind of safeguard in place for your different accounts there. So you can utilize those free ones that come with the different web browsers like Google or other accounts. But you can also look into a main password manager as well. And really what that does is it's another third party you can use to store and encrypt all of those different passwords that you might have to your different accounts. And that way you can have access to all of them and easily upload, and then also have a bunch of different passwords as well. So you're not having the same password for every single one of your accounts, and then they're also as long and complex as possible there. So definitely recommend taking your time, look into those different third-party services you already use to store your passwords. Maybe consider adopting a bigger password manager. There's free ones, there's paid ones that are out there. So it's definitely a good thing to look into if you do have a lot of different accounts that you like to save your passwords with. Just because you never know who get your password and stuff, and it's always good to have that reassurance that your accounts and those passwords are staying safe.
Thank you very much. Some good insight there. Our next question is from Steve from Missouri, and this is for our Harvest Point team. He asked, as Harvest Point continues to grow, how will current clients remain a priority?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Steve, for asking that. And that really, you put it in a great way there in your question in and of itself. And that is, our existing clients are our top priority. Like I mentioned earlier, we would not be here. We wouldn't have a job if it weren't for our existing clients. And so, in all actuality, that's been the central motivation behind making sure that we have the right people in place here on our team so that we can continue to take care of our wonderful clients. You know, we boast a 99% client retention ratio. And again, we've mentioned that humbly, but it is a reflection of the trust that our clients have put in us over the years, and we take that very seriously. So that's at the core and at the central of what we do at Harvest Point, and what we will continue to do is deliver on that. And any feedback that you might have, we always welcome. We want to be growing and improving upon the way that we serve our clients. We're under no illusion that we're perfect, and we always have ways to improve, and we have made a commitment to doing so. but definitely, we're so grateful for our existing clients, and we will continue to be putting your needs first and serving you. And like I said, be the opposite of that 1-800 number. We want you to have a real person to contact, and so we are here and ready to do that with you, and appreciate the privilege that it is to plan for your financial future.
Thanks, Tim. All right, we have another question here. It's from Carol from Iowa, and this is again for our Harvest Point team. Carol asks, should I be worried about my investments during this particular election?
Yeah, I can handle that question, and Tim can fill in if he has anything else to add. Our thought generally would be no. We've been running very hot in the stock market lately, like I mentioned, since the lows in October of 2022. We're up almost 45% on the S&P 500. Now, one thing all of our clients know is during our meetings, during our annual reviews, we spend a lot of time talking about how much risk you're taking in your portfolio. So we have that conversation on an annual basis with clients, and that may be something to reconsider and relook at next time we meet, or even prior to then, if maybe you lost some sleep in 2022 during the down market. But overall, as long as we've had that conversation like we do every year, you should be confident in where the market goes. We're always due for a pullback at any given time, but I'll let Tim speak a little bit more on that if he's got anything he wants to add.
Wait, there's an election this year, Colin? I wasn't quite sure. Did you? Oh, no. Yeah, I would just add that it's kind of interesting. If you look back to 1961, and if you were to have invested $10,000 in 1961 into the S&P 500, which is the broad representation of the stock market, 500 companies, you were to only have remained invested during Republican presidential administrations, then by 2023, your investment would have grown to, any guesses by anybody? $102,000. So not terrible. If you did the same thing, but you only invested during times when there was a president that was of the Democratic Party in the White House, then your $10,000 would have grown to $500,000. So just a little bit better, definitely. But none of that compares to the total that you would have had if you just would have left it invested throughout all administrations. And that total would have been $5.1 million, if you can believe it. So from 1961 to 2023, if you invested $10,000 and let it ride and let compounding growth have its effect and impact the whole time, regardless of politics, you would have been in an exceptionally good position over that time. So we kind of like to separate the two, politics from investing. And definitely, as Colin mentioned, policy impacts our economy. It impacts the laws, tax rules, and regulations. And of course, that will be central coming up here in next year. You're going to hear a lot in the news about the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that is set to expire at the end of 2025. And politicians will be going back and forth about whether or not to extend them or let them expire next year. And so that will be a central part of the planning that we continue to do. We've already been talking to clients about that. And obviously, we will do so in an increasing way next year so that we can make sure that we're planning for anything that may happen in that regard. And we'll be keeping you up to date on those changes. So yes, my summary would be, I would be in agreement with you, Colin, and that is kind of separate the two, invest no matter what. And those corporations do tend to find a way to create new and better ways to serve their customers. And that's a huge part of the market, along with the strength of the consumer. And right now, the consumer is in fairly decent shape. We do have to see inflation continue to come down. It's just remaining a little bit sticky right now. It has come down a little bit, but if it does trend upwards, that's not going to be good for the economy. It's not going to be good for the financial markets, without a doubt. So we do need to see that continue to come down. So thank you for the question, Carol.
All right, thanks, Tim and Colin, and thank you to Olivia and to Anthony as well. That concludes our questions. No more, looks like no more questions have come in yet, but please feel free to still email those, and we will get the answered for you and respond back in a timely manner. Thank you for joining us today, as well as your continued business. As always, we consider it a privilege to serve you. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, guys.